Okay, we're going to talk about one of the topics in the tutorial for week 3, and that is the scope of variables. If we just go to tutorials, week 3, we're going to look at variables and scope. What is variable scope? Well, this refers to a characteristic of variables that define where and when functions can access the value by invoking the name of a variable. All right, and there's two types to really think about. We can think of local variables. They're ones that can only be accessed within the functions in which they're created. This is a real common one. We've used loads of these already. Now, global variables, we have actually touched on this in the notes in the lectures. They can be accessed by any function. So they are defined outside of functions, and they would be referred to as a global variable, and their name can be invoked inside functions. There are some things to think about with this, but essentially that's it for these. We just need to keep that thing. We're going to look at a couple of examples, of course. Now, mostly up to now, we've only been using local functions. So, here an example of a local function is result. It exists only within the scope of the function main, and so this is a local variable within the scope of the main function. So the variable x, on the other hand, is local to the function triple. And if we tried to get a hold of what was going on in main for x, it's not defined. It's defined within triple. But we also have this declaration of the function itself, and we mention x up here, but this doesn't make it global. We haven't actually defined the function outside of, the variable outside of the function. Now, but global variables do exist. They're ones that are declared outside of any function. So we can actually define, for example, a float called global, and here the global function is set to 0.5050. All right. So the global variable. So if a variable is declared outside of any function, any other function can refer to it. So here we've got global mentioned. We can print the value of global. We can do a mathematical calculation to it in other functions. Now, why does the distinction between global and local matter? Well, for the most part, we use these local variables when they're passed, in a function call, and when a variable is passed in a function call, the person who calls it, the callee, if you will, receives a copy of the passed variable, but not actually the variable itself. That means the variable itself is unchanged unless you override it. So, for example, in this little code snippet, here we invoke foo. We've declared it in main, and foo is actually unchanged by just invoking the name by passing it to the function triple in this case. Here, however, we've got a variable declaration for foo. We pass foo to triple. Triple returns a mathematical operation on it, and we put that value back into foo. So in this case, the local value of foo is indeed changed. Now, this is, in a way, it's very straightforward, but it starts to get weird if the same variable name appears in different functions. If they only appear local in different functions, that's fine. That's fine as long as they exist in the different scopes. Like here, where we're declaring the variable x, we're declaring the function rather that has an input of x. We define the variable as an input to the function increment x, and then we can do stuff to it in increment. And in the main, though, we also declare an x here, and we can call the increment with the input of x that we've just defined local, and we can change something in another variable, in this case y. If we didn't declare this this new function at all, we can just see that we've declared these variables in different scopes, and yeah, it would be I'll leave it to you to experiment what happens. But it's totally fine to do this. It usually, I think in some cases I would probably avoid it just because it's a little confusing. And that's all I have to say about that.